This morning's Old Testament reading comes from the second book of Kings, chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. If you'd like to follow along in the Pew Bible, it's on pages 332 and 333. Now when the Lord was about to take Elijah up to heaven by a whirlwind, Elijah and Elisha were on their way from Gilgal. Elijah said to Elisha, "Stay here, for the Lord has sent me as far as Bethel." But Elisha said, "As the Lord lives and you yourself live, I will not leave you." So they went down to Bethel. The company of prophets who were in Bethel came out to Elisha and said to him, "Do you know that today the Lord will take your master away from you?" And he said, "Yes, I know. Keep silent." Elijah said to him, "Elisha, stay here, for the Lord has sent me to Jericho." But he said, "As the Lord lives, and as you yourself live, I will not leave you." So they came to Jericho. The company of prophets who were at Jericho drew near to Elisha and said to him, "Do you know that today the Lord will take your master away from you?" And he answered, "Yes, I know. Be silent." Then Elisha said to him, "Stay here, for the Lord has sent me to the Jordan." But he said, "As the Lord lives, and as you yourself live, I will not leave you." So the two of them went on. 50 men of the company of prophets also went and stood at some distance from them, as they both were standing by the Jordan. Then Elijah took his mantle and rolled it up and struck the water. The water was parted to the one side and then to the other, until the two of them crossed on dry ground. When they had crossed, Elijah said to Elisha, "Tell me what I may do for you before I am taken from you." Elisha said, "Please let me inherit a double share of your spirit." He responded, "You have asked a hard thing, yet if you see me as I am being taken from you, it will be granted you. If not, it will not." As they continued walking and talking, a chariot of fire and horses of fire separated the two of them, and Elijah ascended in a whirlwind into heaven. Elijah kept watching and crying out, "Father, Father, the chariots of Israel and its horsemen." But when he could no longer see him, he grasped his own clothes and tore them into two pieces.
Next scripture reading comes from 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 3 through 6. I'll be reading from the Common English Bible, so it's a little different than your Pew one, but if you follow along, you can notice the differences in just subtle translation nuances. So 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 3 through 6. "And even if our gospel is veiled, it is veiled to those who are on the road to destruction. The God of this age has blinded the minds of those who don't have faith, so they couldn't see the light of the gospel that reveals Christ's glory. The Christ is the image of God. We don't preach about ourselves. Instead, we preach about Jesus Christ as Lord. And we describe ourselves as your slaves for Jesus' sake. God said that the light should shine out the darkness. He is the same one who shone in our hearts to give us the light of the knowledge of God's glory in the face of Jesus Christ. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God." So you guys know that song that I asked the children if they know that, right? This little line of, I'm gonna... Oh, a couple of you joined in. That's good at least. So yes, it's a familiar song. And I've kind of always enjoyed this imagery of light versus dark. I feel it's something we can relate to. It's something we can understand and just kind of connect with. We can associate light with goodness and holiness and being upstanding and doing good deeds, right? And darkness we can associate with evil or doing badness or lacking light and great capacity. And so when we have this little light of ours, we have to be reminded not to hide it under a bushel and not to let people try to blow it out or snuff it out, right? We've got to continue to let our little light shine. And so we can associate all of that shining of light with joy, with hope, contentment, peace, love, just to name a few. And the evil we can associate with doing bad deeds or intending to harm or hurt or cause pain or suffering. So this past week at chapel, I was teaching the little children the basic foundational point for what I feel all of this kind of begins with. The golden rule, right? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Is it perfect? No. But I feel it's a great starting point to get that foundation and that basis for a kind of good and evil sense. If you want someone to be nice to you, you should be nice to them, and vice versa. And so that's how it kind of starts. We have to be that beacon of light and let our light shine and bring that hope to others. So granted, yes, God can provide some of that light and some of that hope for us, but a lot of the onus and responsibility falls upon us. I think of the Boy Scouts that we have with us today, what they stand for, and they have an oath, right? I made it to Weeblos. I think that's as far. Is this a sign for Weeblos? Right? No? Is that right? Kind of? Yeah, is that right? Like this? This hand? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so that's as far as I made it in Scouts. But I did pretty good, and I enjoyed it when I was there. But there's a Scout oath. You guys can join in with me and correct me if I've got it wrong, but I'm going to read what I found on the internet, but not everything on the internet is always right. So here's we go. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. Right? Yeah? Oh, good. All right. Thank you. Good job, guys. So that's the law and the oath that the Scouts have. A lot of that is light shining through, right? Doing good. Staying mentally awake, physically healthy, and morally straight. Letting your light shine and doing goodness in the world. You see, it's our job too as people in general, and especially as Christians, to do what is right. To be that good in the world we so desperately want it to become, or what we want to see. So that starts with the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So that's a great jumping off point or starting point to get this basic of understanding good and evil. So today's scripture passage from Paul in his second letter to the people of Corinth, he discusses how for some the gospel is veiled, almost as if it's shrouded in darkness. And people can't really see the light that is shining from it or upon it. Paul specifically mentions this analogy. The God of this age has blinded the minds of those who don't have faith, so they couldn't see the light of the gospel that reveals Christ's glory, that Christ is the image of God. So at first, we kind of hear that, and we might be a little put off by what Paul is saying. You see, Paul sounds like the dishonest tailors in the emperor's new clothes. If you don't understand the gospel, it's because you aren't among the saved. But I don't know if that's the correct assessment for that. You see, there are plenty of people that don't understand the gospel. But this Bible is a tricky thing to fully understand and comprehend. I went to school for 3 years to learn about it, study it, explain it, and teach it, and I'm still learning about it. So we've all got a long road to go when it comes to the Bible. So I don't know, if we don't see it, doesn't mean we're not part of God's beloved children. It just sometimes it's hard to see things. This is kind of best evidence between this balance of understanding and goodness and evil from superheroes or movies or comic books that you kind of might read. I kind of enjoy them. I'm a little partial to them, and growing 3 lovely girls, they're not as interested as superheroes as I am, but that's okay. I can still enjoy them, right? Well, for my Bible study that I was preparing to do for Lent, but the title of this new Lenten study is, What Makes a Hero? the death-defying ministry of Jesus Christ. And to me, it seems rather fascinating. It compares contemporary heroes that we understand, like Superman and people like that, with our understanding of Jesus Christ. What powers did Jesus have? How does he differ from our understanding of what a hero really is? And kind of going that route in understanding and discovering that. So the first week, it talks about the balance of good and evil. How do we know what is good, and how do we come to learn what is evil or bad? Somewhere along the way, we had to be taught that or understand that or find that out for ourselves. So this first chapter talks about one superhero that most of us probably know. For the most part, he works in darkness and secrecy, combating evil. During the day, he functions and works as Bruce Wayne, the $1 million CEO of the self-titled Wayne Enterprises. At night, however, he dons a mask and a cape and a costume and combats evil that lurks in the shadows. That would, of course, be Batman, right? There was even one recent quote in the latest trilogy of Batman movies that really stood out to me. It's about Harvey Dent. He's the mayor, or some capacity in that, for the town of Gotham, sitting at a table in a restaurant, and they're having a conversation. He eventually goes to become a villain called Two-Face. But right now, he's Harvey Dent, the man. So he looks over to one of his guests at the dinner table and says, "You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain." Kind of an interesting little thought, right? So we take that quote and we apply it to Jesus Christ. What if Jesus had died after the feeding of the 5,000 down by the lake with bread and fish? If Jesus would have died right after that moment, he would have died a hero to these people. Would have been loved by many. Instead, Jesus lived long enough to see himself become a villain. Some people wanted him killed. They wanted him tortured. They didn't like what he was doing. Do we see Jesus as a villain? Of course not. But he knew that other people saw him in that light. You see, somewhere along the way, their thought process of what was evil kind of became a little skewed. So continually learning and digesting and processing what we know is good takes some work. We can't just let it go and say, this is done. So I wonder, too, if this is kind of the present-day state of Christianity in America, where at one point we were a group or a sect or a religious base that seemed heroic of sorts. The foundation of this American democratic government was founded on Presbyterian polity, government for the people, by the people. And there were two Presbyterian, or at least one minister and another Presbyterian, that signed the Declaration of Independence on that day. The church as a whole functioned as a beacon of light and hope for the world, especially for a newborn, very wet behind the ears United States of America. For Christians everywhere, our morals seemed sound. We were doing what we thought was right, and we embraced freedom and rejected oppression and inequality in this country, all while emphasizing the true light of the gospel, or at least the best as we understood it at the time. Now fast forward now to 2018. Are we seeing ourselves become the villain to other people? Or we hear those statements, all Christians are hypocrites, or all Christians are bad or mean, or fill in some other adjective that you might find appropriate there. Are those assessments true? Absolutely not. They may be in small individual cases, but a widespread, sweeping judgment and understanding of Christians is that way is not fair. Is it hurtful? Yes, it can be. But those are some ways that people do, in fact, see us. Have we lived long enough that we have seemingly become a villain to others? And if that's their understanding of us, how can we change that? How do we go about letting our light shine for the world? And that means that our light has to continue to shine no matter what storm we may face or weather. But people may try to snuff our light out, but we can't let them. We have to persist. We have to remain positive and have this good outlook on the world so that it does become a place that we all love, appreciate, and enjoy. It means that we can't hide our light under a bushel, embarrassed by it, and afraid to show it, to shine it to other people. You see, many will try to blow it out in our life. But we have to continue to live with that light and with God by our side. And doing what we can to make this world a better place and represent the gospel the best way that we know how. So kind of based on this assessment, and even drawing from some of the words of Paul that we had from that letter, one has to wonder if there's such thing as being blinded by too much light. You know, like that one song says, blinded by the light. That's all you get from me. That's all I'm doing. But is there such thing as too much light for our eyes? You go to a room, if we were to turn all these lights up to 100%, I bet most of us would squint or close our eyes because it's too bright for us. Or if you're in darkness for far too long, and you go into a room with a little bit of light, what's your first reaction? Your eyes are sensitive, right? So you kind of close them or squint them a little bit because being in darkness for that long and going to the light is a hard transition. So maybe the light we're sharing is a little overwhelming, or never stops, or continues to be such a strong light that it intimidates other people. We have to be aware of that too. You see, in many areas in life, I'm one that encourages moderation. When it comes to TV or food or reading or working or whatever. All across the board, moderation is kind of the key to life in a lot of stuff. So maybe the same way has to go for light. And maybe it takes a little while for our eyes to adjust. If we're new to the light, maybe we don't want so much of it so fast that we become put off by it. In fact, I was having this conversation this past week with a friend of mine. We were saying that, if we share what we love and what we're passionate about and try to cram it down the throats of others, they tend to be put off by that. You see, nothing builds walls or resistance faster than forcing something upon someone, especially if it's something they don't want to do. For instance, if I knew this light of the gospel of Jesus Christ existed, which I do, and I believe so strongly and so passionately about it, I wanted others to see that light, or see the light of the gospel, that I would naturally do something about it. I would take some action. And now the tendency with people is if we love something and we're excited about something, we want to share that with other people, right? If we get a promotion at work or a bonus in our paycheck, we want to tell somebody. If we get a gift for Christmas or our birthday that we love and greatly appreciate, we want to go and tell someone. We want to share all those positives. And that's a good and natural thing to do. The same can be said of God and Jesus Christ. If we're new to God or Jesus Christ or excited and passionate about that, we want to go share that with other people. If we love it and we know it and we understand it, then we do want to share. But there are some good ways to share and some maybe not so good ways to share. Well, one method could plant a seed that someone would eventually grow and have this greater appreciation for God. Maybe others would just put up a wall. So you have to know the person and the context and the place in which you're sharing. And I'm going to say for the most part, it should be positive. People like positive people, right? Or for those of you that might be friends with me on Facebook, I was doing my annual yard work last night. And I took a picture of me kind of surrounded by these vines, and I stated that I'm getting ready to prepare for our new fence by taking care of these atrocious weeds. Kind of just a little joke. But the positive part was that we're welcoming this new fence. Let's see, if I had gone a negative route to share what I was excited about, I could have said that I got a splinter stuck between my finger and my toenail, or my fingernail, that really hurt. I had dirt flung in my eye from pulling up all the roots. I got smacked in the face by 3 vines that are about the size of a tree. They caused some scars, or not scars, but cuts here on my face. I could have shared that way, but instead I chose a positive route. Because I feel the world needs some more positivity. So it's how we share those passions and those loves that can also make a difference with people. And one of the best ways to share is just by living a life that others can know God through us. If they look at us, can they say that, oh, we're a Christian, or we're a Boy Scout that does good in the world? our actions often speak a lot louder than our words. So if someone does see us and sees how we act or sees how we treat other people, they might associate that with the church or God or the gospel or a community or a family that we belong to. So it means that we have to live a life that has open ears and eyes. It means that we have to live with compassion, yet stand up for what we still believe. It means that we follow the lead and the tutelage of Jesus Christ and welcome anyone and everyone that might come through those doors of our church or the doors of our home. So in the end, in order to have more light, we have to be that light for the world. We have to be that beacon of hope, a person of joy, of love, of positivity. But this light does need as much light as it can get. I just think the more light there is surrounding something, the less shadows and less darkness that really exists. But it starts with us. So we have to ask ourselves, are we that positive light in the world? Others may try to blow it out. We may try to hide it every once in a while, but are we going to let that little light of ours shine? And if we do, maybe we can light someone else's light. Give them hope. Plant that seed. Or guide them to the light of the gospel. And that's all God wants. To walk this journey with us and to allow our lights to shine brighter than they ever have before. Amen.